I want to talk about Mike Gundy, Chuba Hubbard, and a shirt, even as it's not about the shirt. Oklahoma State University admitted its first black student in 1949. Back then, Oklahoma State was called Oklahoma A&M, and it was a land-grant university, like nearby Langston. Nancy Davis was that first black student at OSU. She came from a family that was just one generation removed from slavery when she started college. That is to say, her grandparents were slaves. Imagine your papa or your Gigi as slaves. Lock that in. Now let's keep walking with Nancy. I bring this up, about slavery, because Nancy was reminded of that and that there were other places that she could go. That she could go for school at the dean's office at OSU, where the registrar added that blacks weren't ready to go to school with whites. 5 years before Brown v. Board of Education, it was the other way around. The upward mobility of black people was tantamount to criminal activity in 1949. After all, this is the country where Nazi POWs were served ahead of black veterans returned from fighting a world war, defending the very soil you walk on, to beat the white supremacist sitting before them and being treated as more worthy than they. But this insinuation that she shouldn't be at OSU was an especially egregious suggestion to make to a student like Davis, who was pursuing her graduate degree at OSU. She'd already earned her undergraduate degree from Langston. She was a teacher. She pursued her education at OSU anyway, even after she wasn't allowed to stay in the dorms. She graduated in 1953. One of the dorms at OSU is now named for her. It's Davis Residential Hall. The first black football player to letter at OSU was Chester Pittman. After graduating from Wewowoka Douglas in 1957, he played his first game for OSU in 1958 at tailback. He didn't score a touchdown until 1960. He left OSU averaging 5.4 yards per carry on just 110 carries for his career. Doesn't sound like much, but as Jenny Carlson pointed out, his legacy is breaking the color barrier at OSU without it breaking him. Davis and Pittman are first, and being pioneers, is hard. The weak die along the way, and the cowards never try, and that leads them. And more often than not, being first is soul-crushing. Carrying the hopes of a race always has been, especially at the beginning of integrating schools and school systems, let alone football teams. Dr. Martin Luther King used to say so. The quote folks remember most from him is that of his wanting his children to be judged not by their skin color, but by the content of their character. The quote many don't remember is his warning of what would occur once integration occurred at land-grant universities like Oklahoma State. In conversation with Wally Vaughn, he made clear that fear in his pastor's study in early 1960s. He said, quote, "I favor integration on buses and in all areas of public accommodation and travel. I am for equality. However, I think the integration in our public schools is different. In that setting, you are dealing with one of the most important assets of an individual, the mind. White people view black people as inferior. A large percentage of them have a very low opinion of our race. People with such a low view of the black race cannot be given free rein and put in charge of the intellectual care and development of our boys and girls. I don't see integration in schools successfully happening right now and being beneficial. I think the school system will have a problem. It will be disastrous. Training will be necessary. White educators especially will need training in how to deal with black children. They will have to come to grips with their prejudices. Without such training, I don't think it will work. Love, tolerance, and respect on the part of white people and black people are mandatory. If integration is to work in public schools, it will have to be a gradual process. Yesterday, Mike Gundy wore a shirt. with a purported news network called One American News Network on its front. That news inspired unanimous All-American running back Chuba Hubbard to send a tweet chastising his head coach and announcing his displeasure. One American News Network is known for pushing conspiracy theories, among them that Black Lives Matter is a subject of our imagination, a farce, which is an indirect assault on Chuba's and my own humanity. It's as if we're being called crazy and hysterical while we watched George Floyd be murdered on video for 8 minutes and 46 seconds by a man sworn to protect and serve him while he was crying out for his late mother. Couple this with the knowledge that in April, Gundy called OANN, quote, so refreshing. They just report the news. There's no commentary. There's no opinions. There's no left. There's no right, end quote. Now, Gundy is either willfully blind or horrendously misinformed. Either way, we can agree he is not a stupid man, which cuts this issue to the quick. Chuba was amen by star linebacker Amin Ongbongbemiga, the entire OSU offensive line, and 2018 Biletnikoff Award finalist Tylan Wallace, among others. And because so many I've encountered have proven to be willfully obtuse on this point, I need to actually say out loud, Chuba and the OSU players' protest is not about Gundy's shirt. Chuba's protest, his tweet, is about his coach's attitude toward a moment of real pain, real struggle, and action needing to take place to create an inclusive society, specifically at Stillwater. Chuba's stance was so severe and he felt so marginalized to such a degree that he called Mike Gundy's wearing the shirt unacceptable and refused to engage with OSU until he saw change. Meanwhile, I'm having talks about the University of Texas head coach saying all the right things while a native Okie and second most powerful man in the state can't get it right when talking or showing support for his mostly black team during the Black Lives Matter moment. 4 hours later, Chuba and Gundy appeared in a poorly produced video where they bro hugged at the end. In it, the multimillionaire white head coach extracted an apology from his best black player, following said player making public his feeling of being marginalized because of his race at a time of heightened racial tension in a country not of his birth. Gundy still hasn't publicly apologized to anyone, let alone Chuba. As coaches tell us, this is a teaching moment. So allow me, if I might be so liberal as to borrow from Aaron Sorkin's The American President, America isn't easy. America is advanced citizenship. You gotta want it bad, because it's gonna put up a fight. It's gonna say, you want free speech? Let's see you acknowledge a man whose words make your blood boil, who's standing center stage and advocating at the top of his lungs that which you would spend a lifetime opposing at the top of yours. You want to claim this is the land of the free? Then the symbol of your country cannot just be a flag. The symbol has to be one of its citizens exercising his right to take a knee before that flag in protest. Now show me that, defend that, celebrate that in our classrooms. Then we can all stand up and sing about the land of the free. Slavery ended in this country 155 years ago Friday on Juneteenth. The U.S. Supreme Court forced integration of the school systems 66 years ago. Loving v. Virginia, the decision that led to striking down of laws against interracial marriage, of which I was one, happened 53 years ago. The love of my life is a white woman. Means we've only been learning how to live, work, and be family in this country for just half a century in a country that is more than 250 years old and born of rebellion. When we're having a conversation about race in public, too often, we're also having to reteach the same stuff folks claim to have learned from A, the Bible, B, kindergarten, or C, civics class. And Mike Gundy is proof that we're still in the midst of what Dr. King referred to as a gradual process. We're still waiting to see Mike Gundy's change. Gundy is forever tied to his handing the football to a black tailback at OSU, the best college football player ever. Now, his name is once again bound to a great black tailback. And I'm asking you, Gundy, not to fumble the snap again. Hand Chuba the ball and let him do what he does best. Follow his vision. Find the daylight. Hit the crease and lead Oklahoma State and the rest of us home.